"This ranch is mine now," Marcus Wade claimed, holding up the deed like a battle flag while his 4 sons stood behind him, hands resting on their pistols. "Bought it fair and legal from the bank." The old rancher just smiled, rocking slowly in his chair on the porch, whittling a piece of cedar like he had all the time in the world. Ezra McCulloch was 73 years old, had worked the Double Moon Ranch for 50 years, burying 2 wives and 3 sons on its soil. When the bank had foreclosed last month, a suspicious foreclosure, considering he'd never missed a payment, everyone expected him to fight. Instead, he'd sat on this same porch, whittling and waiting. "You hear me, old man?" Wade stepped closer, his boots heavy on the wooden boards. "Pack your things. You've got 1 hour." Ezra's knife never paused in its careful work. "Oh, I heard you, Mr. Wade. Question is, did you read that deed real careful?" "Course I read it, every word." "Even the part about the mineral rights?" Wade's confident expression flickered. "What mineral rights? This is cattle land." Ezra's smile widened, showing teeth still strong despite his years. "That's what everyone thinks. Been keeping that secret for 30 years. He blew wood shavings from his carving. It was taking the shape of a tombstone. "You see, Mr. Wade, sometimes the best trap is the one that looks like victory." From inside the house came a sound that made everyone freeze. The distinctive rack of a shotgun being loaded. Then another, then several more. Wade's sons drew their pistols, but Ezra just kept whittling. "That would be my nephews," the old rancher said conversationally. "The Torbert boys. Maybe you've heard of them? They've been waiting inside for 3 days now, ever since I heard you were coming." The Torbert brothers were legend in Montana. Not outlaws exactly, but men you didn't cross unless you retired of living. Wade's sons looked nervous now, their hands uncertain on their guns. "You can't threaten me," Wade blustered. "I bought this land legal. Sheriff Daniels himself witnessed the sale." "Oh, I'm not threatening anybody." Ezra held up his carving, examining it in the morning light. "Just introducing you to your new neighbors. See, the deed you bought gives you the ranch buildings and the cattle rights. But the mineral rights and the spring that feeds this whole valley, those belong to a separate claim. My claim." Wade snatched the deed from his pocket, scanning it frantically. His face paled as he found the clause, buried in legal language. "Without water rights, this ranch is worthless," he breathed. "Now you're learning." Ezra stood slowly, joints creaking, but his eyes sharp as a hawk's. "So, here's what's going to happen, Mr. Wade. We're going to have us a conversation about how you really got this deed." Wade's son, Clinton, the hothead of the family, stepped forward. We don't need to explain nothing to you, old man. We own this land now." "Clinton, shut up," Wade snapped, still staring at the deed. The confidence that had carried him onto the ranch was crumbling like dry clay. Ezra moved to the porch railing, and now Wade could see movement in the windows, the shadows of armed men. "Your boy's got spirit, Wade. Reminds me of my youngest, before the fever took him." His voice carried old pain carefully controlled. "But spirit without wisdom is just another way to die young." "What do you want?" Wade asked. "Truth, starting with how Sheriff Daniels suddenly discovered I was 3 months behind on payments I know I made." Ezra pulled out a leather journal, pages yellowed with age. "See, I keep records. Every payment, every receipt, for 30 years. Funny how those receipts went missing from the bank the same week you came to town." Wade's other. Our sons exchanged glances. This was news to them, Ezra could tell. The old rancher had suspected Wade acted alone in the fraud, using his sons as mere muscle. "I don't know what you're implying." "I'm not implying anything," Ezra's voice hardened. "I'm stating facts. You paid Daniels and the bank manager Hoskins to forge foreclosure papers. Probably promised them a cut of the profit when you sold the ranch to the railroad." Wade went rigid. "How did you know about the railroad?" Ezra's smile was sharp now. "Son, I've lived here 50 years. You think I don't know when surveyors come through my land at night, when Easter money starts sniffing around?" He pulled out a letter, official-looking, with a wax seal. "The railroad approached me 6 months ago, offered me 10 times what the ranch is worth for the right-of-way through Devil's Pass." The pass was a narrow cut through the mountains, the only practical route for 100 miles. Whoever controlled it would make a fortune in railroad money. "But I turned them down," Ezra continued. "This land isn't about money. It's about blood and sweat and promises made to dying sons." His voice caught slightly. "My boy Samuel, before the consumption took him, asked me to keep the ranch in the family. to never let it fall to speculators and carpetbaggers. Clinton Wade laughed nervously. Family? You've got no family left, old man. That's where you're wrong. The front door opened, and out stepped a young woman, maybe 25, with Ezra's same sharp eyes and stubborn jaw. She held a scattergun with practiced ease. This is my granddaughter, Sarah, my eldest boy's daughter. Been back east getting educated in law. Sarah's voice was cultured but strong. Grandfather asked me to research your business dealings, Mr. Wade. You've done this before. In Colorado, twice in Kansas. Each time you mysteriously left town just before federal marshals arrived. The thunder of hooves interrupted the standoff. A dozen riders approached fast from the east road, dust billowing behind them like smoke. Wade's face went from pale to ashen when he recognized the lead rider, Federal Marshal Tom Brennan, known for his intolerance of land fraud. You contacted the Federals? Wade hissed at Ezra. Didn't have to. Turns out, stealing U.S. mail is still a federal crime. Ezra held up an envelope, torn and dirty. This was the letter from the railroad, offering to buy my ranch. Funny how it went missing from the post office the same day you arrived in town. Even funnier how I found it in Sheriff Daniels's desk when I paid him a visit last night. The Torbert brothers emerged from the house now, 4 of them, each holding rifles, positioning themselves strategically around the porch. They weren't pointing weapons at anyone, but their presence shifted the entire balance of power. Marshal Brennan reined up in the yard, his deputies spreading out in a practiced pattern. Mr. Wade, he touched his hat brim, fancy seeing you here. We've been looking for you since that incident in Dodge City. This is a misunderstanding, Marshal, Wade started, but Brennan cut him off. Save it for the judge, he looked at Ezra. Mr. McCullough, I received your telegram. You have evidence of mail theft and land fraud. Sarah stepped forward, producing a leather satchel. 3 months of evidence, Marshal, including signed confessions from both Sheriff Daniels and bank manager Hoskins. They were quite talkative once they learned the penalty for mail theft. Wade's sons were backing away now, hands raised, distancing themselves from their father. Only Clinton remained loyal, his hand still hovering near his gun. Clinton, Ezra said quietly, your father used you, just like he used everyone else. But you're young. You can still choose a different path. Shut up, Clinton's voice cracked. You don't know anything about us. I know your mother died when you were 12, Ezra said, his voice gentling. I know your father ragged you and your brothers into his schemes because he couldn't face his failures alone. I know you never wanted this life. Everyone stared. How could the old rancher know such things? Your aunt. Martha lives 2 towns over, Ezra explained. She's been writing to me for months, hoping someone could save you boys from your father's influence. She says you wanted to be a doctor once, Clinton. Said you were good at healing things. Clinton's hand trembled, fell away from his gun. His brothers moved closer to him, protective now, seeing their father with new eyes. Marcus Wade stood alone, abandoned by blood and circumstance. You planned all this, he said to Ezra, voice hollow. You let me take the ranch, knowing I'd hang myself with my own rope. The land teaches patience, Ezra replied. Wait long enough, and the truth always surfaces. Marshal Brennan dismounted, approaching Wade with shackles. Marcus Wade, you're under arrest for mail theft, land fraud, and conspiracy. He looked at the sons. You boys aren't on my warrants, but I'd suggest you distance yourselves from your father's business. Wait, Sarah spoke up, surprising everyone. Marshal, these young men were manipulated. They thought they were helping their father save the family business, not committing crimes. Clinton stared at her. Why would you defend us? Because I know what it's like to lose everything, she replied. My father died in the war, my mother, to grief soon after. Grandfather could have let me become another orphan, but he chose mercy instead. She looked at Ezra, who nodded slowly. That's what family really means, choosing to help when you could choose revenge. Wade laughed bitterly as the shackles clicked around his wrists. Noble words from people who set a trap for me. The trap was your own greed, Ezra said. I just provided the bait. He turned to Wade's sons. Your Aunt Martha owns a small farm, needs help working it. Honest work, honest pay, your choice. The 3 younger brothers looked at Clinton, waiting. He was the eldest, the one they had always followed. See, Linton studied Ezra's weathered face, searching for deception and finding none. Why? Clinton asked. Why offer us anything? Ezra resumed his whittling, the tombstone carving nearly complete now. Because hate is like drought. It kills everything it touches. But mercy? Mercy is like rain. Makes things grow you never expected. He looked up. Besides, my granddaughter's going to need good men to help run this ranch when I'm gone. Men who understand what it means to choose the hard right over the easy wrong. Sarah stepped closer to Clinton, offering her hand. Grandfather taught me that everyone deserves a second chance, but only one. What you do with it determines who you really are. Clinton looked at his brothers, at his father being led away, at the ranch sprawling before them. Slowly, he took Sarah's offered hand. We never wanted to be outlaws. We just wanted to belong somewhere. Then belong here, Ezra said simply. Work the land honest. Learn its ways. Maybe find what your father never could. Peace. The Torbert brothers relaxed, lowering their weapons. They'd seen enough of life to recognize redemption when it appeared. One of them, the eldest, approached Clinton. Name's Jake Torbert. You know cattle? Some, Clinton admitted. Then you'll learn more. Ranch this size needs all the hands it can get. Jake's handshake was firm, accepting. But you cross the old man or his granddaughter, and we'll have problems. Clear? Clear. As the federal marshals rode away with Marcus Wade, Ezra finished his carving. It wasn't a tombstone after all. It was a sign, carefully lettered, Double Moon Ranch, all are welcome who work honest. The seasons turned, as they always did in Montana. Wade's sons proved themselves through blizzards and drought, working alongside the Torbert brothers and the other ranch hands. Clinton especially threw himself into the work wide, that intensity born from the need to prove himself worthy of the second chance he'd been given. Sheriff Daniels and Bank Manager Hoskins both testified against Marcus Wade in exchange for lighter sentences. Wade himself got 20 years in federal prison. His schemes finally ended. The railroad, faced with Ezra's continued refusal to sell, found another route through the mountains. Longer, more expensive, but legal. Sarah established a law practice in town, specializing in land disputes and protecting small ranchers from speculators. Her education and Ezra's wisdom made them formidable advocates for honest settlers. Clinton began courting her with awkward determination, bringing wildflowers and stammering through conversations about books she'd recommended. He's trying so hard, Sarah told her grandfather one evening, amused and touched. Good things are worth working for, Ezra replied. Boy's learning that. 2 years after that morning confrontation, Clinton and Sarah married in the ranch's main room, with Jake Torbert standing as best man and Ezra giving the bride away. Clinton's brothers had found their own paths. One became the town's new sheriff after Daniel's imprisonment. Another started a horse breeding program that became the ranch's most profitable enterprise. The youngest went east to study medicine, fulfilling the dream Clinton had abandoned. Ezra lived another 8 years, long enough to hold his first great-grandchild, Clinton and Sarah's son, named Samuel after Ezra's lost boy. The old rancher died as he'd lived, quietly and with dignity, sitting in his porch chair, his whittling knife in hand, working on a toy horse for young Samuel. At his funeral, the crowd stretched beyond the ranch house. Townspeople, Torbert brothers, railroad men who'd learned to respect him, and Martha Wade, Clinton's aunt, who wept for the man who'd saved her nephews from their father's path. Clinton spoke at the grave, his voice steady despite his tears. Ezra McCulloch gave us more than land to work. He gave us the chance to become men worth respecting. He tall. Get us that strength isn't about taking what you want. It's about protecting what matters. Sarah added her own words. Grandfather always said the land remembers everything. Every kindness, every cruelty, every choice. This ranch thrived because he chose mercy over vengeance, wisdom over force. That's his true legacy. The Double Moon Ranch prospered under Sarah and Clinton's management, becoming a sanctuary for those seeking second chances. They established a program for young men who'd made mistakes, teaching them ranching, responsibility, and redemption. The sign Ezra carved that day remained above the gate, weather-worn but readable. All are welcome who work honest. Years passed into decades. Clinton's brothers all found success and peace, their children growing up free from the shadow of their grandfather's crimes. Marcus Wade died in prison, unrepentant and alone, but his sons ensured his grandchildren knew a different legacy, one built on honest work and earned respect. When Clinton was old and gray, teaching his grandsons to work cattle, one asked him about the portrait hanging in the main house. Ezra McCulloch, forever captured in oils, that knowing smile still visible. "That's the man who saved our family," Clinton said simply. "He could have destroyed us, had every right to. Instead, he saw what we could become and gave us the chance to become it." "Was he your grandfather too?" Clinton smiled, hearing Sarah calling them for dinner, seeing the ranch Ezra had protected spreading golden in the sunset. "Not by blood, but by choice, which matters more. He taught me that family isn't just who you're born to, it's who stands by you when you choose to change." The boy nodded, understanding in the way children do when truth is spoken plain. Together, they walked toward the house, their shadows long across land that remembered everything, including the day. An old rancher smiled at threats, knowing that patience and wisdom would triumph over greed and force. Stories like this aren't just told, they're felt. If you felt it too, subscribe and stay with us.